Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I am doing the mid-year freakout tag today. So I really like this tag. I think it's kind of a nice way to look back look back at the first half of the year, figure out what you've read, what you haven't read, kind of gather your thoughts a little bit. This year, I haven't been putting any pressure on myself in terms of a big TBR. I pretty much cleared all my physical TBR in the first month of the year. I've been steadily buying some books that I like, but nowhere near as crazy as I was the last couple of years. I mean, I literally had like 100 books on my physical TBR to read, and that was just crazy, and it was just too much pressure. And I've also not been putting pressure on myself to read what I think I should be reading, and by that I mean I think a lot of the stuff that I was picking up previously was because there may have been some hype around it, maybe a lot of other people were reading it, so I was like, well, I also want to read it, I want to see what it's about, but quite often I would be slightly disappointed, or it just wasn't really, if I truly asked myself, what do you want to read, what are you going to enjoy, what is like your preference, it wasn't necessarily that. So I haven't read that many books this year, but the ones that I have read, I have absolutely loved, like 99.9% of them. I mean, there's a question on here asking about what your most disappointing read is, and I literally cannot think of anything, just because I haven't had anything that's disappointed me, which is awesome. So, after that ramble, without further ado, let me get to the questions for this tag. So, the first question is the best book you've read so far. This is a tough one. Like I said, I've really enjoyed the books I've read, but I would say the best book I've read so far is Skin by Kate Koja. I love this book. It is basically now on my kind of top 5 list of all-time favorite books. It's joining like Lost Souls and Just Kids up there. And Kate has also become a new favorite author because and that's another one of the questions actually, new favorite author, definitely Kate Koja. So Skin is about 2 girls, Tess and Bibi, and it's this crazy romp through their life. Tess is a metal worker, so she makes these beautiful, slightly weird, out there sculptures in metal that no one wants to buy. So she's a struggling artist, but she also does pickup work on the side. And then Bibi is a dancer, and she's also kind of obsessed with scarification and body modification. And she has this kind of dance troupe that's quite, let's just say, it is not your normal dance group either. It's quite provocative, and they kind of come together and they create these incredible shows, kind of merging metalwork and steel and dancing and the body, and just I mean, it goes awry in certain places, but I love this book. I love the way Kate writes. I just love everything about this. So yeah, Skin is definitely my favorite book of the year. The other one that's going to get an honorable mention, and I didn't put it off my shelf, but the other one is The Drowning Girl by Caitlin Kiernan. I love Caitlin Kiernan. Anything Caitlin Kiernan writes, and she's going to feature again in this video, but The Drowning Girl, and that one is about a girl kind of writing a book, writing her memoir, but she's sort of recounting these experiences of meeting this mysterious girl on the side of the road, and she picks her up and she takes her home, and she thinks she's met her twice, but then she's not sure. You're not sure whether or not this is real, whether it's in her head. She's got a family history of mental illness. It's just an incredibly fascinating book. And also her love interest in the book, which I love, is a trans girl. And I really, really love this book by Caitlin Kiernan. It's absolutely one of my favorites of hers. It's right up there with Silk as one of my favorites, so I love it. So that had to get an honorable mention. Then the best sequel of 2020, I don't think I've read a sequel. Let me think. Have I read? Oh no, I have. The Sword in the Stars. Yes, I have read. Yes, I have. So what I was going to say is this kind of goes back to what I was saying about what I want to read versus what I think I should be reading. So I'm not, series, I struggle. I always think I want to read series, and then I tend to read like the first book, maybe the second book, and then lose interest, unless it's really, really good. So I've been reading a lot, like last year I started reading a lot of series and then realized that I didn't really care to continue in them. So it's very rare that a series kind of grabs my attention and makes me want to read all of the books. I I have read one sequel, so I listened to it on audiobook, Sword in the Stars. So that's a sequel to Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta, who I really love, and Corey McCarthy. They write together. They are a real life couple and they write together the series. And it's basically a futuristic, set in space kind of retelling of the King Arthur tale with loads of non-binary characters and queer characters and lots of really good commentary around gender, especially the second one as well. I think there was a lot more comment around gender and gender roles, and I just kind of love it. It's just such a crazy concept, but I think it works, and I really enjoyed that series. So yeah, definitely enjoyed the sequel to that one. Yay, I've read a sequel. Then the next question is a new release that you haven't read yet. And that is this one over here. So it's Music from Another World by Robin Talley. I think I've pretty much read every Robin Talley book, and I really love her books. She writes queer fiction. There's usually female romance in her books, and I just kind of like the concepts she comes up with. So the last one was Pulp, where you had a timeline back in the past and a present day timeline about a girl researching kind of lesbian pulp fiction, which again I thought was a great concept. It was a lot of fun to read. This one just had me from the blurb. It basically says it's 1977 and the USA is tearing itself apart, and so is Tammy Larson. And she's 17 and she is, she kind of figures out that she's gay. So obviously in 1977 it wasn't as easy to come out. But also what I love about this is that it's set in, first of all, in the 70s. I love kind of the whole hippie era, the music, all of that. I love a lot of the music and that from the 70s, and I want to read anything kind of set in that kind of era. And so it says set to a soundtrack of Bowie, Blondie, and a whole lot of Patti Smith. A whole lot of Patti Smith. Yeah, these girls kind of, what I presume is going to be falling in love, but also with this background and these references to all the music is... that had me from Hello. So I've literally just gotten this in the post, so I'll be reading that. And I'll do a video on that. Then, a most anticipated release that hasn't come out yet, for me it's Harrow the Ninth. So, weirdly, even though I went on a spiel about sequels, I did love Gideon the Ninth. And I know it was quite a divisive book, because some people did not like it. I loved it. It is right up my alley. It's necromancing. It's, you know, just... this kind of gothic mystery element to it, which is just something I love. So I do want to read the sequel and see what that's like. Then, again, okay, so the next one was the biggest disappointment. I genuinely do not have anything for this category. The biggest surprise, do I have the book? No, I don't. Okay, so the book is on my bed over there, but I'm not going to go and get it. So the biggest surprise for me is The Astonishing Adventures of Fanboy and Goth Girl. Now, I've just read the book, and this is the sequel. Okay, I'll take back what I said about sequels. However, so this isn't a series, this is just the second book, and it focuses on the goth girl in question, and that's why I did my lips blue today, because I wanted to match Kira. But the book, the first book, The Astonishing Adventures of Fanboy and Goth Girl, I'd kind of been kicking around for ages, just in my periphery, for years actually, if I'm totally honest. And for whatever reason, I'd never either found a copy or I'd never sort of picked one up. And I kind of actually saw this one and I was like, you know what, I really want to read this one because the cover really attracts me, and the fact that the main character is a goth girl, I really wanted to read it. And I was like, well, obviously I've got to read the first book because otherwise it won't make any sense. But it's about a 15-year-old boy, fanboy. And I was like, oh, do I really, a book from a point of view of a 15-year-old boy, can I connect? And oh my God, I absolutely loved it. It has so many kind of deep issues in it, and particularly this idea of loneliness and friendship and being different, and obviously the high school experience, but I think that anybody can relate to it. We can all relate to it, I think, in our past, where we may have felt that way when we were young, but I still think we can relate to it as we're adults. And I really love the darker elements of that story, and I cannot wait to read Kira's story, because it did end on a tiny bit of a cliffhanger with Kira. And I want to read her story, and I'm really, really interested in her. So yeah, but that was a big surprise for me, is how much I loved that book. Favourite new author, I think I mentioned that, Kate Kocher, all day. Favourite, newest fictional crush, I'm going to hold this book up again, it's Tess from Skin. I really, really like Tess. I love the whole welding, metalwork, sort of aspect to her character. I suppose I have a little bit of a thing for slightly broken people, and she is, but also I think she's got a good heart. And yeah, I just really love Tess in this. So yeah. And I'm also currently reading Queen of the Damned and Lestat. I love Lestat. Actually, I like Armand as well, but Lestat. Then newest favorite character. I'm not going to go Skin again. I'm actually going to say Kira from Fanboy and Goth Girl, but, you know, from this book as well. So just because she intrigues me and I want to know more about her story and what happened to her, yeah, I would say it's Kira. Then, book that made me cry. I don't think it made me cry as such, but it really tugged at my heartstrings. Goja, The Blue Mirror. So this features a group of, they're termed squatters in the book, and it's street children. And there's parts in here that are, you know, really difficult to read, and you know, these kids are obviously on the street and what's happening to the girls, and it is incredibly sad. So it's a unbelievable book. It's, again, this is another contender for book of the year. It's outstanding, but there are places where it's hard to read, particularly with control and assault and, you know, how these girls are treated on the street. So yeah. A book that made me happy. Oh, I haven't really read that many light and happy books, if I'm totally honest. I think Skin made me happy just because I loved the prose so much. I think The Drowning Girl made me happy as well, in the sense that I loved reading them because they were so good and they were so amazing to read. So I would go with those. I haven't really, like I said, read A Broken Monsters. It sounds terrible. Broken Monsters is about a serial killer, but it kind of, again, discovering Lauren Bierkus and her writing made me happy, in the sense that it's gorgeous. So I was happy I discovered a new author that I liked. Then the next one is The Most Beautiful Book. So I've got a few contenders for that. So the first one is this gorgeous edition of some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories and poems. I adore Poe. I think that's a really cool cover. I love the back, and I mean, just everything about this book is really beautiful. I did sort of spend some money buying it, but I loved it. And then in between, for each sort of story and poem, you have, you see that, you have drawings and pictures, and just the way the book looks, and the edges as well. Look at that, it's just gorgeous. So I really, really love this book, and it's a really nice one to read, kind of Poe in, you know, by candlelight. The next one that I think is beautiful, and I'm going to talk about this book more in another video, but this is Vampires. This is Encounters with the Undead by David Scull. This book is incredible. I cannot believe I found this. So you can just see it's a great big hulking book. But as you can see from the inside, it is incredible. It has pictures, it has drawings, it has commentary, it has actual stories in here, and you know, all of these authors' stories are featured in the back, and it really gives you an entire history of vampire literature going way back to 2000. There's a fabulous list in here of, David does say it's not a comprehensive list, but there's a great list of just vampire books, kind of really like starting back from the first vampire book in sort of 18 something to 2000s. So I'm going to be working my way through the list and kind of discovering new books, particularly for the 1990s, which is my favorite era. But yeah, I love this book. It's Pride of Place, and it's just gorgeous. It's so interesting as well, and I love it from the content point of view. I think it's beautiful. And then, like I said, Caitlin was going to be featured again. So I've, again, literally just received this in the post. Oh, I was so happy. This is Caitlin Arkillen's The Ammonite Violin, and Other Stories. And it is, I just think, I love this cover. It is so beautiful. So it's, what do we call this? The French flap. I love that. I love the kind of quality of the cover, that like soft quality. That on the back is beautiful, and again, the contents is going to be absolutely beautiful. I know, I can tell. But yeah, I just think this is a beautiful, beautiful book, and I cannot wait to read it. And the cover art is by Richard A. Cook. Then the next question is, what are books kind of that I'm wanting to read on my TBR for the rest of the year? So I brought some. So The Ammonite Violin, Music from Another World. Then Goth Girl Rising. Then another one that actually is a new release that I haven't gotten to yet, that I'm dying to read, is this one over here. It's Wonderland by Juno Dawson. I've loved everything Juno Dawson that I've read of Juno Dawson's. I've read quite a lot. I've actually got another book. Oh, I should have bought it. It's beautiful. It's called Grave Matter. I'll do it in another video, but also a Juno Dawson book. So that one. Then I've got a book by Kate Howard called Roses and Rot that I can't wait to read. That's beautiful. I've got a book called Fade to Blue. There's a book called The Casket Girls, set in New Orleans. It's supernatural, but it's also after Hurricane Katrina, and the whole New Orleans setting is something that I adore. I've got a book called Thicker Than Water, featuring a goth girl protagonist. A lot of these do. The Asylum by Emily Autumn. I can't wait to read that. Then I've got a couple of Caitlin R. Kiernan's. So we've talked about the Ammonite Violin. I've also got Chance. That's another one of her books. And then another book that I'm really excited to get to, that again I've seen kind of kicking around for ages, is Sunshine by Robin McKinley. It's up there on my bookshelf, that's why I keep looking. Robin McKinley. And that one is a vampire book, but apparently a vampire book with a bit of a difference. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. And I think just generally reading plans for the rest of the year are, again, just reading books that I'm going to love. I'm hoping not to have a disappointment all year, so we'll wait till the end of the year to say that. And yeah, I'll just be doing loads of videos. I'll probably be showing you quite a few of those books, maybe doing a bit of a TBR, showing you all of those. And just talking about the books that I love, talking about the music that I love. And I'm thinking of starting a series of just things that I love, whether they be podcasts, books, films, anything, because I always think that's quite fun, and I like watching those kind of videos, so it'd be fun to share with all of you. And that's it. So that's my mid-year freak out tag. I'm not freaked, I'm chilled. I am happy. And yeah, so thank you all for watching. I hope you're all keeping well and safe, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.